Hey guys, thanks for coming back for the trade review today. We're going to be looking at a gap up fade on WOR. So this trade was actually today. You can see the not financial advice, but we're going to show you kind of what we did, how we took the trade, and how we exited the trade, and talk a little bit about what we could have done better. So what's a gap up fade? So typically the stock gaps up and rallies in the open and then fades back down to close the gap. The specific setup that we were looking for, so the specific reason that we entered is the stock makes three highs tightly above VWAP before cracking the support and breaking to the downside. And that would be our reason to enter the trade, which is why we took the trade. So I was extra position. So at the time, it was rallying. The extra was actually rallying up, and then it's probably a little bit of weakness, but didn't really turn at the time of this trade until we. But yeah, so not too much to really get from that. So the catalyst, Investor Day presentation, I would rate the importance of the catalyst about a 3 out of 5. It didn't really stick out to me, but we did notice in our pre-market sheet that the previous, the sector move, the biggest sector move we had was in the energy market in the US. So there was going to be a little bit more eyes on the sector, and so because it had an announcement, would bring a lot more eyes to that specifically. And so yes, this is the stock information. We're not really going to go over it, but you can read it if you want. Only thing to notice is the sector, and that's the gap really. So it gapped up 3%. So you can see this is the daily positioning chart. It's not really, you can't really get too much from this, but you can see that it was hovering around the underside resistance level for quite a while, like a trend line. And it's kind of just range constricted, not really doing anything. That last green bar that you can actually see is the day, so what happened today. And yeah, and so here's our intraday chart. So let's break down the chart a little bit. So I left it clean so that you guys could see exactly what we mean. So this was a 3% gap up to here, and then it rallied quite a bit through the 11, tested the 11, and then came up, rallied again, but couldn't break a new high, made a lower high, and then started breaking down, and then it broke down to the 11. So we took the short around VWAP. That was when we entered. And then I exited a little bit into the capitulation here, not for any other reason than I was just actually in a bit too big at the time. And then I exited a bit more down towards the low of day, but still held a bit of a core on, and then sized up on the retest because I felt like the retest was revalidating the trade, and then sized out through the 70, 60, and then on its way back up. But yeah, so yeah, I thought it was a really nice, clean trade, really easy to take and really easy to get big on. And so yeah, so the reason that we're looking to enter here is because it's a VWAP break. We also have the level, which is the 11 level, plus it's making a new low, plus it couldn't make a higher high. So there's so many reasons to think that this is a short, as well as the fact that like most gaps actually do gap fill around at least like 40%. So we were expecting for it to drop the low of day, and we probably could have held a bigger core, but we'll get into what we could have done in a second. So yeah, so what could we have done better? So really, like the trade risk was so low. I was entering around the 11, the 1102, and then sized in on the way down. But my maximum risk was about 5 ticks. So definitely could have maybe even like doubled, tripled the size. That was really easy. And then hitting the levels with more conviction. So when it broke the low of day, when it retested, sizing in a bit bigger there because it was the volume and everything lined up. Let's look back at the chart. So you can see, so when it breaks that level, then it comes back up, and on low volume, it starts to reject back down, right? That means that there's not that many buyers in the way, so the sellers can easily push it down. And then, yeah, so that was really easy to get in more as well. Then we could have also held onto a larger core on the move. I actually do not like my first exit. So my first exit was actually, shouldn't have happened, but it was just because I was in a bit big and I wasn't as confident because I hadn't seen the setup in a little while. But definitely if I see it again over the next few days, I'm going to hit it. And, you know, the way to really analyze this is the distance to VWAP. So, you know, like it was really tight around VWAP this whole time. It didn't extend out from VWAP like it did when it went to the lows, right? There's a big gap here between VWAP and the lows. And here, there's not really that much of a gap. The total area space is actually a lot less. But yeah. So do you have anything to add, Zach?
Yeah, if it didn't break the time that it did, and it kind of makes a lower high or equals the last high, is it still the same trade?
So you mean like if it goes back up and then comes back down?
Yeah, just say it didn't break 11 when it did, and it made maybe a lower high or maybe even equal high. Are you approaching it the same way? Are you taking the anticipation short?
It depends on this candle here, right? So we talk a lot about kill candles, right? This is our confirmation candle. The reason that this is our confirmation candle isn't actually just for the reason that you think. This candle opened, it went up to VWAP and then came back down, right?
Yeah.
It rejected VWAP from the downside this time. And so if it had to come up, you could have easily like just taken the small loss, waited for a new entry, and then entered when it reclaimed VWAP again. But if it extends out much longer, and if it held under VWAP for a full candle, like if this candle was here and then it rejected back up, the trade is finished, right?
Yep.
No trade there. If this candle came back up and then it like made another lower high and then came back down, you could definitely take one more entry. But if it kept doing that, it's showing you that VWAP has no strength, right?
Yeah.
Because you see here, right? The only other time that it actually like hit VWAP, it rejected really fast, right? Not even a full minute down there, right?
Yep.
And look at the rejection of it, right? It was straight up to that level, right? So the trade itself is justifiable only because of the fact that the stock has shown you that VWAP has validation, right?
Yep.
Hasn't broken VWAP, and then when it finally does, it should continue down. But if it comes back up one more time, then maybe you could get back in, but maybe not with big size. Really depends on the setup itself. But I would say, like, you want to be careful re-entering 3, 4, 5 times when you see it constantly breaking VWAP, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just because of the fact that that's not the trade that you're looking for, right? So yeah. So.
And another question. When it did break VWAP and it kind of grinded around the 1090 level, we've seen this a few times. Me and you have traded a similar setup before, and there's been times where it kind of chops there and it goes back to VWAP, and sometimes it just goes back to the high. At that point where you took some off at 90, where was your stop? Was it incremental or was it all at once that you were going to take the rest off?
Oh, when I took some off, I was thinking about that, right? About the fact that it was holding this level, but there was no serious level there, right?
Yep.
So if that was the 11, right? If it had to come down into the 11, then it was holding like that. Depending on where it's spending the majority of the time, that's the side I would be a little bit more biased towards for the next move. Not necessarily the whole move, but for the next move, right? So if it's grinding 1101 to 11, then I'm slightly more long biased. If it's grinding 1099 to 10, to 11, then I'm slightly more short biased. But the point being that when it was doing that consolidation, you would have been really watching what happened at VWAP. So my stop was above VWAP, and I kept moving it down with VWAP until it broke. So when it broke the low of day print, and established some distance from it, I moved my stop above the opening print.
Yep.
And then when the stock got into this area here, I moved my stop above these points. So it was maybe up here or something like that. So just a couple pips below, but I didn't even have to do that really. Like I could have just left it on.
Yep.
But this 3 red candles as well often is not is a sign that there should be some kind of pull up, so comes back a bit. So I was very interested in getting some out there. So that's really the main trade. But yeah, anything else?
Yeah, that's all.
All right, cool. All right, thanks for watching.